All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I am here with James Parks. James, welcome. So awesome to have you here today.
Kevin, pumped to be here. Thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to a super interesting conversation. I know we've got one massive common denominating factor between the both of us, which is that we hugely appreciate and understand the impact of powerful human beings. So I'm looking forward to exploring that.
Absolutely, yes. And in fact, I want to give a shout out to Adolfo Gomez because without Adolfo, I interviewed him a little while back for the podcast. And after having the experience that he and I had, he's like, Kevin, he's like, you have got to interview my friend James for your podcast and stuff. And what a testament right there to the power of relationships, which is what this podcast is all about. Because you and I got to connect, and it's like right from the get-go, James, it was like we'd known each other for years because we had this mutual friend in Adolfo. And so what a powerful way to be connected with other entrepreneurs. And
yeah, absolutely. I was just going to add there that like that guy's a titan of a human being. If people get the opportunity to go back and listen to that podcast, his drive, endeavor, and commitment to his health, his business, and his family are admirable. But not only that, he then aligns that with some really smart critical business thinking that looks at old problems in a new way. And he's definitely at the forefront of management consultancy and how businesses can learn things that from sport that they never necessarily would have put together. And he's had some incredible results, absolutely phenomenal. He goes toe-to-toe and punches with the big four.
yeah.
So, I mean, absolutely phenomenal guy. And he's given me so much time, energy, thought, a whole huge amount of his experience, which has shortcutted my opportunities tenfold. So yeah, absolutely. You're just backing up what you say there. Fabulous guy, but there's more than meets the eye with Adolfo. He's a real special one.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And yeah, if that kind of piques your interest a little bit, definitely go back and check out a few episodes back and check out the episode with Adolfo too and stuff. So James, what I'd like to do is I'd like to start off by turning it over to you so that we can set a little bit of context, let the listeners kind of know a little bit about who you are. And so share a little bit about, what you do, who you serve, what inspires you most about the work that you do. And also, be sure to include some of the backstory as far as like how you even got here, how you got into doing what you do.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. I think I'll try and start it with, imagine you were 40 years old. You just had twins to go along with an under 2-year-old. COVID had just started. You've been living your life, a dream life in professional sport, playing and training for the last 21 years of your life. Everything was perfect. And you thought that that was the ultimate moment to step away and go and do something because there was such a big drive, purpose, and belief inside you that you were helping privileged people do privileged things, that you needed to step away, take your skills and use them to help those less fortunate. And that person you're looking at is me. That's what happened to me. I'm an incredibly privileged human being. I've got a loving, caring family. I've got 3 wonderful children who come with all the challenges that young people do. And raising them is really, really tough, as it should be, because my wife and I care about it. However, it's also something that I'm humbled to be able to do. And not everybody has that ability, privilege, or opportunity. So I essentially, I was a human performance coach in elite rugby union in the UK. I was with one of the most successful sides in the country. We'd done everything from winning domestic to European trophies. We were in finals regularly. It was all going great. And I just had a real burning desire that I didn't feel like I was fulfilling my potential. And you and I have spoken about this, and I'm sure these conversations will continue, that humans can do the most amazing things when they're put in the right environment. You look at James Clear's Atomic Habits, making sure you set yourself up to win with making sure that the environment is built, that you're living in is built for you to succeed when you know where you need to go. And essentially, I felt as though the environment that I was in was serving others, not serving myself. And by serving myself, it was using my skills to help as many people as possible to live a better, healthier life. And I essentially went away and thought about what's the quickest route I can find to resource as many people as possible and leave a legacy long term that will not only impact myself and my family, but many others and the lived environment itself. So 2.5 years ago, I stepped away from professional rugby and I built out the start of a B2B health and wellbeing platform that supports two areas of huge social significance for what we hope will be the biggest and best businesses on the planet, where we align their preventive health strategies with their corporate social responsibility programs, and we reward and recognize employees within organizations with contributions to projects that matter to them, and either in their local community or globally. And we've just started getting to the start line, having got so much wrong. We've got so much wrong over the last 2.5 years, but that's how we get better, and we all know that, right? Failure is not something to be scared of. Failure is something to embrace, learn from, stand up, dust yourself off, and keep going. And as I think Alex Hormozy said, I read recently was a great quote, which is there's two types of businesses: those that keep going until they're successful, those that die. And I'm hell bent on using my actions on a daily basis to bend the will of the world, to build a business that is going to be super successful, change loads of lives, and impact not only people but lived environments, communities, and workplaces across the globe. And that's me.
I love that. I love that. I'll say, James, there is no hiding your passion for what you do. And, when, it's interesting. I was talking with a friend of mine last week that has been an entrepreneur for years and runs a very successful business. And in fact, last year their business did 24 million in gross revenue. And he was like, Kev, he's like, we have a very nice profit margin. And he's like, I am extremely grateful for the business and for the lifestyle that it provides and for that it allows me to take care of my family in a way that makes me feel good and do philanthropic things. But I'm going to tell you, in being completely candid, he's like, Kevin, I know how passionate you are about the work that you do. And he's like, I do not have that passion around the work that I do. And he's like, I'm grateful. I'm really grateful. But he's like, I don't have that passion. And, he's like, this has been really just in my thought process lately about, I want to have something that I'm that passionate about. And so he and I have been having some deeper conversations around this and stuff. And I'll tell you, the most successful businesses are the ones that, like what you said, either they're going to make it and you're going to go through the failures and all of that. And really failures are our lesson. That's our learning. That's how we figure out what works and what doesn't work. And so failure is not a bad word at all. It's a discovery process. And when we use that effectively, I've made some key discoveries along the way that have been total game changers, that I'm like, oh, I'm doing more than that. Okay, that worked, and we don't need a whole lot of those to make up for all the stuff that didn't work. Just a couple of those big wins and those figuring out what really works and what really resonates makes a big difference. But having that passion like you have, man, it's like, shit, I'm rooting for you, man, and so
yeah, I mean, and thank you. But we're really fortunate that I've managed to come up with a business model that's getting some amazing interest from some of the most incredible businesses on the planet. And none which we can mention yet, but we've got one signed and underway, and we've got another one which we've closed half of and hoping to close at the end of the week. But this is a classic business model which is based on people, planet, and profit, doing good for both of those, and out of that comes good, and using that to drive and incentivize people to do good, because doing good's tough when we're busy, we're time and attention poor, we haven't got the ability to be able to dive into other charitable altruistic means regularly. Why not? Why isn't our business supporting us to do that? And why isn't our business supporting us in a different new manner, which we believe is in preventative health, is the ability to deliver communities. So people of like-minded lived experience coming together to help support one another, create accountability and opportunities to change people's lives through groupthink. That's where we believe there's a real opportunity moving forward. And like, businesses need to find ways to do this because they want to have happy, healthy employees.
Yeah.
And like let's say healthcare systems are challenging at the best of times. So how can we help build something better than that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, okay, so now that we've got a little bit of context set here, I'm going to switch gears just a little bit, and I'm going to reiterate the question for the benefit of the listeners. So, James, have you ever been introduced to a person or persons that completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And I'm just really excited to hear your story and your experience around this topic of relationships.
Absolutely. I think the first and foremost, it goes without saying, my wife, to say the person who's given me an ability to be able to be who I am, and make sure that I work towards being a better version of myself and as often as possible. And again, like we spoke about, kids are challenging, long-term relationships are challenging, but they're also amazing because they're the thing that gives us the foundational element for change and change for good, and supporting somebody else and will make us better human beings. And I think that's always a really important thing to realize, because too often the ones that are closest to us are the ones that get the least attention on the things that are most important. So making that important and making the little things the most important things is always really important. So that's something I believe in really strongly, and I don't always get it right, that's a certainty, but I do say I do try. And then outside of that, in terms of the storytelling piece around the question, like there definitely has been an individual which has changed the course of what I've been able to aspire to and deliver to date. And say that individual is a gentleman called Dr. Shuja Ali. I was introduced to Shuja through an old rugby friend of mine, in fact. And Shuja is actually the person who introduced me to Adolfo.
Okay.
So now you're starting to see it all link up. So just over a year ago, he and I met online, and then say grabbed a coffee together. And it was, I mean, he's done incredible things. He's been a physician, McKinsey, bought and sold his own business, worked with private equity funds, like incredibly well versed in the business sector. And but outside of that, and the most important thing, and a term Adolfo uses, is a gold standard human being. He is an absolutely incredible person, and it's so empowering to see somebody who has got incredible human qualities that's been incredibly successful as well. To know that those two don't have to be diametrically opposed, but they can be synergistic. And I think that's such a fantastic lesson for anybody who has maybe seen or heard the narrative around, business has to be hard, tough, and it can be all of those things, but it doesn't mean it can't be done empathetically, with great values and ethics, which is something that he's taught me. He's taught me to dream big. He's taught me to action appropriately. He's taught me to write better emails. He's taught me to how to access complex systems and navigate through them, how to look at enterprise opportunities. And we've had everything. Like we've not yet got to the start line, so we're just launching our first MVP to key stakeholders next week of our first organization to a small group, and like everything that goes alongside that, alongside value proposition, alongside stakeholder management, alongside funding, alongside altruism, alongside, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. The amount of time and energy he's given to me on a daily basis has been mind-blowing, and something that I look forward to being able to pay forward when I'm given that privilege and opportunity when our business takes off.
Yeah. Wow. So, you've mentioned the doctor, you mentioned your wife, you mentioned Adolfo,
Mm.
if you look back
Mm-hmm.
on these relationships, and I'm sure you could probably come up with a number of examples or stories or experiences, and I'm just going to challenge you to come up with whatever comes top of mind when I ask this question. But if you look back at these relationships and look at your own life, and what is an example of an opportunity where an experience where you got to make a really substantial impact, and hands down, that would have never happened without your relationship with whoever that was that you've been talking about stuff.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of clean business opportunities, say the holy trio, which is myself, Shuzha, and Adolfo, have all leveraged networks and opportunities to land our first major paid pilot with a blue chip US tech firm. And considering I live in the southwest of England on the side of the moors, that's quite an accomplishment. So we've managed to leverage two sets of relationships into. So if you talking degrees of separation, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 degrees of separation to get to the stakeholder that we needed to create the leverage that we needed to get the contract that we wanted with, which gives a business of my size and scale an opportunity to be a global player in what is a huge industry in terms of preventive health and well-being. So you look at the exact, say, one of the other people in Adolfo, he believed in what we're doing enough to be able to vouch for us and stand up and push us forward into, say, some people he knows, which then led to where we are.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And that whole degree of separation thing right there, when we, I think I look back at my years, and I started this publishing company in 2003, 2004, and ran that business for 12 years. And in running that business, one of the big ways we grew that business was doing strategic partnerships with other entrepreneurs. And in that 12-year period, I did almost 600 strategic partnerships. And in doing that, through building all those relationships, I always, my default position is just talking with entrepreneurs, and then I find out, well, what are they working on? And I just default to well, who do I know that might be able to help them with this? And so I end up making these connections and stuff. And when we just come from this place of just service, of being in service of others through whatever it is that we're doing, people like what you're talking about, James, they just want to support us. They're inspired by the work that we're doing. They want to make those connections for us and stuff. And we are only several degrees away from anybody that we could possibly want to meet. It's just finding that pathway and stuff. And finding that pathway is very easy when you got a track record of treating people well.
Yeah, I know exactly. No, I wholeheartedly agree with that. And we look at all the way back to, say, the Buddhist philosophy around, say, service to others being one of the greatest manners of improving our health. And there's so much value in that, because there are biological hormonal responses to making others feel good and it makes us feel good. So there is not only subjective evidence, there's objective evidence to back this up, to make sure that the way and means we go about our lives, the ethics and values that we portray will attract others. And that's why, to a certain extent, believe what you want in terms of manifestation, but the energy that we produce and the way in which we go about our lives, of course, is going to attract like-minded people of, say, similar values, morals, and ethics. And then all of a sudden you start forming a tribe. Once you start building a tribe, say your echo becomes so much louder, the ripples go so much further. and
Yeah.
the waves that you can create are so much bigger. And there's exactly that. Great people are, I say, nobody ever does anything great on their own. It's always the
That's right.
compounding effect of lots of great people getting together, and the impact that they can produce is always way in excess of what they can do on their own, which is why other people are always going to be so important. And like they say, careful how you treat people on the way down, because they'll be the ones you're passing on the way up, because they'll be the ones you're passing on the way down. So yeah, there's a massive amount of energy that I spend working as hard as I can to ensure that I do as much as I can for people based on my circumstance and context.
Yeah.
And that's everything, right? That's how how I treat my kids, how I treat my wife, and all the way through to the relationships I have and opportunities it enables.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, James, for anybody that's listening to this and going, man, Kev, I really like James. I love the way he shows up. What are some resources? Any resources, tools, or website? How can they find out more about what you guys are doing and stuff?
Oh, and thank you, Kevin, and say I'd love to chat to anybody. Really, very, very much into just learning more about the world, other people, what their challenges, problems may be, and how maybe I can help, or how maybe I can learn from them. In terms of getting in contact with me, the easiest way is probably LinkedIn's pretty easy. So James Parks, and you'll see My Day is our wellbeing platform. Online, the website is www.my-dayapp.com. If you want to get a bit of a look at how we're bringing together these areas of social significance for businesses. And yeah, I'm absolutely always super up for chatting to people. And like I say, we've been fortunate enough to meet and have two fantastic conversations and share a lot of the same synergies, energies, and thoughts around the world. So yeah, absolutely always up for it.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation, James. Any last thing you feel led to share before we call it a wrap?
I just very much like, it's great, isn't it, that out of the ether from the middle of nowhere, we were able to be put together and have a great conversation, and who knows where it will lead, who knows where it will be. But by taking the time and effort, being kind, courteous, thoughtful, and putting our best selves out there, then you just never know what might happen. And the more you do it, and the more you trust in the person you are and how you show up and what you put out into the world, the more willing you are to be yourself and conserve all the other energy for the other important things in life, the easier that becomes. So I definitely think there's a huge amount of value in it.
Absolutely. Man, good stuff, James. Good stuff. Well, thanks again for taking the time to have this conversation. Really appreciate you and excited to share this with a lot of other entrepreneurs and founders.
Thanks, guys.